All right, cool. So now we're
There we
recording.
go.
We're
All right,
recording?
We are
Yeah.
recording.
We're recording.
right,
Can
so-
y'all see me?
Here we go.
I can see you. Mask and
Yeah.
all.
Go ahead.
So this is Shane from Super Paloma Bros, and then I got my brother First down there, Scorpio Chronicles, and I got my boy Royce Adkins. What's up, man?
What's up?
Welcome, bro.
How
So
you doing?
we're doing good, man. We're just gonna be recording, just talking comics with you, man. Me and First found your comic book really intriguing. The
Yes,
biopunks
sir.
and
Yes, sir.
Legends of Althea, freaking
Awesome.
the short film with Outcast. Like we just, we're really intrigued by your vision and everything that you're doing for the comic community, and just like what I mean, like we just want to do a little interview with you. You know what I'm saying? Just
Pretty much.
pick your
Absolutely.
brain and everything in mind of
brain.
Royce. So
Cool.
yeah.
Cool.
Pick your brain.
Exactly. So we were talking earlier, and we were doing some deep diving, man. Like we were doing some good talking, then we didn't hit the record button, and then so we finally decided to hit the record button. So
I just
we're gonna
burst out and
touch
say, you
on-
know what? Let's just go ahead and let's just record this. It's no sense in
Right.
pre-interviewing.
Exactly.
Let's just be natural and just go ahead and do it. I mean, we're all melanated brothers in comics.
Yep.
So let's just go ahead and do it and just let it flow. And
Just make it happen.
we start talking. That was it. So
Right.
I don't know, Shane, you wanted to go ahead and start with a question or something?
Yeah.
Or you want me?
So tell me
Hey, bro.
your thought process, like I guess your thought process of making your characters and your stories with biopunks and
Mhm.
Legends of Althea.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. So my thought process, for me, it's important, obviously, to have as many diverse characters as possible.
Yeah.
And, I'll wait for that that ambulance to go by.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all good.
You good, man. Somebody got a cat.
Yeah, I'll try that again. Take two. Yeah, so for me, when coming up with my characters, obviously, diversity is like the biggest thing. I always want to have, as diverse as I can make it, from a racial standpoint, but also too, a big thing for me is I like for my characters to kind of have some type of ailment behind them or something about them that's not really the norm of society. Because for me growing up, I had asthma. I had really bad asthma. I was like allergic to everything. Like I was like the stereotypical asthmatic nerd, always had his inhaler, all that stuff. And, we're always portrayed in mainstream media like we're the punks, the sissies and all that stuff. So I always want to try and paint people like that in a more kind of like cool, positive light. And, it just blends with my love for superhero comics and cartoons and all that stuff growing up. So just kind of blending the two with that. So instead of us being like the people that need to be saved, or like we could be, or maybe we're like the side character, put us in the forefront. And so we're the heroes, we're the leaders of those stories. So that first and foremost is always in the back of my mind when creating my characters. And then from there, just kind of filling them out and then filling them with stories that I think are interesting, stories that I think, deserve kind of like a cool twist. So with biopunks, it's about these three people. They all have a different physical disability that has to do with the central nervous system, right? And so they all go through this experiment where they have pretty much this thing I call the spinal cord, which is like an artificial spinal cord replacement where they have surgically installed, and it kind of takes over their central nervous system and gives them, it kind of alters their central nervous system and gives them a boost and ends up giving them special powers. But with that too, it's also a story about kind of like how if you kind of tamper with the natural order of things, things can kind of get out of whack. So something that was intended for good ultimately kind of ends up being something that sends everything into chaos. And, as you'll read more as the story progresses. I have 5 issues out now with that, but you'll see how like, you know, it's kind of like the root of what was supposed to be good ends up kind of being bad at the same time.
Yeah.
So, you know, so that's kind of like the sense behind that. And then with Legend of Althea, she's a character who has vitiligo, which again, it's like she's already black, which is great. But then I'm like, okay, how can I take that representation even farther? You know, and so I was like, oh, that'd be cool if she actually has vitiligo, and it's represented around her body, and it's more so on her face, where she has a pattern in the shape of a heart, which kind of represents kind of the core theme of what the story is, and that she gets the ability to heal people after having this, you know, artificial heart transplant. If you notice, like I like to do like surgical artificial things in my stories.
That's awesome.
Thank you. So from that, she discovers she has the ability to heal people, but at the cost of herself. You know, healing others causes pain to herself and other psychological things, which again, as more stories come out on that, you guys will learn more about that. But so just kind of just spreading as much as I can in different ways that I think haven't been done in the mainstream or haven't been done that much.
Okay, cool. So I have another question. Did you always want to do self-publish, or did you want to actually pitch it to a publisher with your comics?
I knew I always wanted to self-publish because mainly after doing my research, so Biopunks was my first comic book, and I did a lot of research going into it. And the one thing that I saw was that, because there was a lot of articles, self-published, do I sell, do I submit? And first thing I noticed too is like a lot of these big companies like Marvel, DC, and all that stuff, they don't even accept submissions. Like they always say the best way to get discovered by them is to do your own stuff, and then they'll reach out to you. So I figured if that's what the best of the best are telling me to do, then that's probably what I should be doing. So from there on, I knew I needed to self-publish, but it kind of morphed because it went from I wanted to self-publish to get noticed by those people. But as I started getting into it, I realized there's so much more to be gained. Of course, not up front, but later down the road, there's so much more to be gained by self-publishing and retaining all the rights yourself. You know what I mean? So kind of like building this world independently, which obviously is the much harder road to go down. But that's kind of like what I'm taking pride in now, is that everything that I do, you know, I do want to be self-sufficient in that and keep moving forward without the expectation that anyone's going to come and be like, hey, or like say Marvel or DC comes, they're like, hey, we want to put you under us, you know? And honestly, as cool as that would be, I don't even know if I would want that, because like the catalog is so huge, my characters would easily get lost. You know, like I hear you. As we all know, the hardest thing about creating something new is like you have this fan base, you have these characters with these huge fan bases, and the last thing they want to do is learn someone new. You know what I mean? Like, especially in that setting, like it has to be something the reader wants to do. But you know, if Marvel's like, hey, we have this new tag team called Biopunks, they're like, cool. So when's the new Avengers coming out? Or like, oh, hey, what's going on? What's going on with New Mutants? Aren't you guys supposed to be rebooting the X-Men? You know, so it's like, there's really kind of there's not a lot of room for that. So you kind of have to go indie if you want to get the recognition that you want.
Yeah,
that's true. It is a lot of other people that are going independent now, and I've been seeing that a lot, and it's not just now. It's been happening a long time ago. Speaking of New Mutants, I can't think of the gentleman's name, the one that wrote that had the first appearance of Deadpool. He went independent. And
Rob Liefeld.
Yep.
Nope. Did we lose him?
Oh yeah, I think we lost him.
And they got pissed at him about that, which a lot of people are doing the independent thing. So if I didn't ask any questions earlier, it's because my phone went black and I couldn't see or hear anything. So
It's all good.
if I repeat a question, I do
Did you
apologize.
lose the first second?
I was like, I came back on, y'all just still talking. I was like, man, I done missed all the good stuff. I'm about to watch this over again.
That's why we recording.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But just to throw in a quick question here. I don't know if Shane already asked this, but what was it that made you say comics and directing?
Interesting.
What was it that, I mean, why not? Because, we're all given this idea. I don't know about everyone else, but a lot of us melanin was given the idea as boys, we're supposed to sports, football, basketball.
Right.
And if you do like any other thing, like you don't look like a person that, I was always told, you don't look like a person that collect comics. I'm like, what does the person looks like?
Right.
So what made you go in, veer away from that and go in that direction and pretty much set a new trend or start a new pathway for a lot of us?
Yeah. Well, it's because a mix of a lot of things. Because I was into sports and I loved sports when I was younger. I still love sports, basketball specifically. My whole thing, like I was stating earlier, like I had really bad asthma growing up, right? And that was always a problem. I also have I have bad ligaments. Like I had 2 knee surgeries.
Oh,
so
boy.
I had a lot it was an uphill battle to do the whole sports thing. But part of it, I think I endured and did it longer than I probably even wanted to because of that mindset of like, oh, well, you know what? I feel like this is what I should be doing. Cause it's like, you don't at the time, you don't think like, oh, I'm black, so let me try playing sports. But I think subconsciously it does kind of play into our minds, where I think we feel like we have to at least try, with that. And I think that kind of played into why I kind of wrote it out longer than my body would have wished that I did. Because it got to a point like after my senior year in high school, I was like, my body can't handle this. I'm done. But even throughout that, like I grew up on comics, cartoons, anime, and my dad got me into all this stuff. Like he gave me my first comic book, which was Spider-Man, because that's his favorite character as well. Yeah, so he's the reason, and as I got older, like he made sure I like was diverse in a lot of different things, and then eventually like I started sprouting out on my own and learning about other characters and things like that. But as far as like the directing aspect of it, the movie that influenced me the most to actually, not directing specifically, but to get into storytelling in general, was Toy Story. So like my parents took me to see Toy Story in theaters. I was like 6 at the time, and like that whole experience just changed my life. And I knew I wanted to do something like that like made people feel a certain way. I didn't know which avenue that was going to be, but I knew I wanted to do something like that because of that movie. And so at first I was like, okay, well, Toy Story is a 3D animated movie. Maybe that means I'm supposed to go into animation. So I actually started going that route, started learning how to draw, started to, get into the whole animation thing because I thought that's what that meant. But then I realized I wasn't really, I didn't have what it took to be an animator or an artist. So like, even with my own comics, like I don't do the art myself. I always hire out. So once I kind of ruled that out, I was kind of like in this weird space, and my dad reminded me when I was younger, I always used to shoot like these home movies with my friends. And so he was like, you love movies, you love shooting, just focus on that. That's what you're like naturally good at. And I was just like, I don't know if that's what I want to do. But long story short, once I got into college, I decided like, you know what, let me just go, full into this. Cause I even dealt with wanting to be a rapper again, being black. I'm like, maybe I should try rapping. I don't know. So
I think we all
DJ Roro.
Exactly. You always
some beats, man.
You always have that point where it's like, I make beats now, and everyone's like, what? Like, yeah, that's what I do. And it's like, are you sure that's what you want to do? Yeah. So dabbled in that, but eventually made my way back to film, and I went to college and graduated for that specifically, and just went full on into directing. And that's where I've kind of just honed in. I was like, this is my lane. Like I want to direct. I've always loved the idea of directing and everything that went into making a movie. And then eventually, once I did that, I learned, okay, if I want to direct, I need to write something, because if you're a director that's never directed anything, no one's going to trust you to direct their stuff. So I was like, all right, I need to make my own projects. And so that's kind of how I got more into writing. And then with that, I started getting into making my shorts and things like that. But even then with that, there's always the struggle of raising money to shoot your shorts and to get things going. You got to get a crew. There's just a lot involved. So it got to a point where with Biopunks, I actually wrote it as a feature film. So wrote it literally right after I graduated college. And it just the idea just came to me, and I was like, oh snap. And I just started wrote the whole thing in 2 months. And I looked at it and I was like, this is going to cost a lot of money to make. I don't know how I'm going to do this.
I was just talking to first about that. I was like, bro, if you try to make this into a movie,
we were literally
just about a couple million.
Yeah, we were literally just having this conversation before we called you.
Christopher Nolan on your film. That's what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
We were just literally having the same conversation right before we called you.
Yeah, he was like, you want to make a blockbuster. That's what he's trying to do.
Like, this is going to be a lot of money if you turn this into a movie, which that's what I was thinking. I was thinking that maybe Biopunks was a little bit a part of Outkast, because I kind of see
definitely
a comparison. I was like, those fight scenes in Biopumps, I see them in Outkast, which is awesome to see them in light come to life. I'm just like, I was watching Outkast and my mouth was like this the whole time.
Yeah,
and I was sitting there kicking and doing like this, I was fighting for real. I'm sorry.
No.
A little kid came out of me. I was doing this oh crap, how does he do that?
Right.
It took me back to my martial art days, but that was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No,
I was just talking to Royce before we started recording again. I was like, I see the trend that you were doing, dude. Like when you started with Biopunks and then Legend of Althea, and then when I watched Outkast, I was like, oh, okay, I see what he's doing, man. Like, I love that vision, dude, because it was reoccurring, and I was like, this is what he was meant to do. Like, Royce, this is what you're supposed to do, man. And watching that Outkast, I was very intrigued. I was like, damn, he directs really good. I was like, he writes really good. I was like, this is
good director.
Amazing. I really enjoyed it, dude.
Thank you.
Really fantastic.
And that means a lot, especially that you picked that up, because the fact that you connected Outkast with Biopunks, because a lot of the style that I want to do for Biopunks, I implemented that into Outkast. And so the goal really originally, the goal for Outkast was really, it was just an idea I came up with, I wanted to do real quick, but I wanted to at least have that as something, because I've done a lot of shorts, but I hadn't done anything action based, and I knew that's ultimately what I wanted to do. So I needed to show people that I could do that and hopefully do it in a unique way. So that's where Outkast came from, and I was like, all right, let me create this story so then I can show people I can do action to eventually do Biopunks. And I shot it, and the action, I did it as a visual of what I would eventually want Biopunks to be. But thankfully, the reception has been so great on Outkast that, you guys, people have hit me up hey, Outkast needs to be its own series as well. So I'm that's awesome. So that's where I'm also developing that on that end as well. But yeah, so to go back to Biopunks for a little bit though, that how it ended up shaping into a comic was, once we did the script, I realized it was going to take a lot of money. What ended up becoming the path for Outkast, I originally wanted to do my first 10 minutes of the script, which is pretty much the first issue, where we see Naya and we see her and her dad get attacked by this mysterious figure, and pretty much he just comes in and just wrecks their world, and that's kind of the jump start of the story. And I wanted to shoot that to kind of give people a visual of the tone of what I was going for. So I did a whole Kickstarter because I knew that even just doing that was going to be a lot of money. Did a whole Kickstarter campaign, everything, and ultimately it didn't work out. I wasn't able to raise the money and kind of had to like put it back on the shelf. And like, man, you know, this might be just one of those ideas that, you know, just kind of sits there for however many years, and then hopefully if I get the chance later on, I do it. But then what I ended up doing was, in preparation, in hopes that I was going to raise the money, a friend of mine, his name's Brandon Gresmy, and he's an artist. He's ultimately the one who did the comic books. He helped me with the storyboards when we first were starting, and I looked back at them, and we were pretty much talking, and I was like, yo, man, the way you did it is pretty much like a comic book, just like from that. And I was like, I like comics, you like comics, yo, let's just try and like make this a comic, because then we can get the story out there. If we can create a fan base, maybe that can help speed up the process of making it into whatever it's going to be. And
yeah, let's be friends.
Right. And so he was like, yeah, man, let's do it. That's dope. And so that's ultimately how I got into the comic book scene. And Biopunks became a comic. But the thing about it is, though, I learned very quickly that just because you like to read comics doesn't mean making comics is easy. At least for me, it wasn't. Yeah. It's like a whole other world. So it was a lot of trial and error, figuring out the best way to go about it. And then, you know, we ended up doing the comic convention scene past 2.5 years, hit a bunch of comic conventions, and that's a whole other conversation.
Yes.
But
yeah, that is.
Yeah, but
whole different world there.
Yeah, but ultimately from that, working on the story, it actually helped me expand the story even more than what I had as a feature, to the point where I realized, like, I actually would have been selling the story short if I just would have made this into a movie. Like, there were so many elements that I was able to dive into in this comic book, and that hopefully I can actually get into and release more issues, to where it started to kind of take a whole nother life in the form of comics. And now when people started checking it out and all that stuff, one thing that I found was interesting was people started saying, like, hey, this is actually great. This should be in animation. Like, this would be a great animated series. And that I never even thought about. I was like, oh, that actually would be dope. And so I thought that would be dope. And eventually I started thinking that way. And now I've kind of revamped everything, and I've written kind of like a pilot and did a whole pitch Bible and all that stuff for it as an animated series. And I'm currently you guys will be the first to hear about this, but I'm working on a animated teaser. Snap. Working on an animated teaser for Biopunks to kind of like help pitch and get the idea out there. So in a funny way, like, my original like drive to want to be in animation has kind of come back full circle years later through doing comics. So it's kind of like crazy thing to think about.
So you guys heard it here first
right now.
In the interview.
Yes, literally first, no pun intended.
Scorpio Chronicles.
Right, exactly.
The bombs over here, dude. Roy said it. Yep. We heard it first.
Yep.
We heard it first. Y'all jealous.
Heard it first. Heard it first. Be exclusive. So that's
oh my god.
We got the exclusive. Appreciate that, Royce. Man, I really appreciate that, bro.
No, absolutely. And with that, learned a lot of lessons from Biopunks, and then eventually from that, that's where Legend of Althea came into play. And again, that started as a short film. I wanted to shoot that as a short film, but then COVID-19 hit, so I realized I wasn't gonna be able to do that, and immediately switched. And I was like, all right, I did it for Biopunks, let me do it with Althea. And it was a lot easier. I was able to to knock out this first issue a lot quicker, which we're just about to finish up the first issue, a physical print of it, along with, you know, the uploading more episodes to Webtoon. So that's kind of like where my mind is now, where before I was always film first. Now I'm like, okay, well, I can make this a comic and get it out a lot quicker and cheaper than doing a project or a short film or something like that.
Royce, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You making a crossover, man? What you doing over there, bro?
What do you mean?
What you doing over there?
What are you talking about crossover?
Are you leaving comics and going into movies?
You got Outcast. What you doing, bro? You making a little universe over there, man?
We'll see. I'm just.
You didn't want to admit that one though.
I'm just
instead of Marvel or DC, it's called the Roro.
Right.
The Robo.
I'm making characters that may or may not be in the same world, who may or may not be a part of something bigger. Definitely. Not you can't match the Avengers. Like you just can't match that. You can't match the Justice League. Like those will always be solidified. But if I could do something on a smaller scale that could have just as much of an impact for people like us, I will say, that's not out of the cards.
See, man, he's tiptoeing around the question. He isn't trying to give us the full spoiler. Okay,
well,
let me ask.
I will go ahead and say it.
I'll just say this. I'll just say this.
Right.
You guys have watched Outcast, right? And you saw the villains that the main character was fighting.
Correct.
And if you read Legend of Althea, you might see a similar mask in those characters.
I did see that.
That might answer your question.
So was that like a first appearance?
that could be a first appearance of a hint that these characters are all in the same world.
Let me ask you this then: if you had to name your multiverse, what would you name it, Royce?
If I had to name honestly, I have no idea. Because I feel like no matter what I name it, it's not going to be. I feel like it's not going to be as cool as what we already have. So that's why I'm like. That's why I want to just. I'm in my mind. I'm not looking at it as that because it's just a lot to live up to. Right now, I'm just creating these characters, and then whatever comes of it, comes of it.
Yeah,
I think it's nothing wrong with going ahead and researching the name for a multiverse. There's nothing wrong with that at all. You already got the three main things. You got the movie, you directing, you got the animation coming on, you got the comic books. Just go ahead and name the multiverse, man. Just go ahead and do it. The Beckley, or something like that.
The Beckleyverse.
Look, instead of DC, call it RB. Robo Beckley. There you go.
The RB. I like that.
Come on, just go ahead and do it.
I'll write those down.
I'm going to encourage you.
I'll write those down for consideration. But I was just gonna say with what you were saying, but that is ultimately a goal. Is like I want to be able, being both the creator of the comics and the filmmaker, have that control where I can bring my comics, whether they're comics, cartoons, whatever, I can bring those to life. So I'm like kind of like at the center where I can create a comic and then also turn that comic into a film or a TV series myself, where I don't have to rely on, I have this comic book, please turn this into a series, Netflix or something like that. I mean, ultimately it would, I would still need studios like that, but where it's more of like, hey, this is what I'm already doing. I'm more than capable of doing this myself. If you guys want to lend a helping hand, that's great. That type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Very cool, man.
Yeah,
that's
the whole idea is for them to seek after you. You want them to seek after you, not you always chasing after them.
Absolutely.
So, Netflix need to find you, Hulu need to find you, Marvel need to try to. Now, if Marvel gets mad at you or DC get mad at you, you ain't doing something right.
Right.
That's just not to it.
Exactly.
Definitely. All right, we're losing them again.
Everything, which it's time out that a lot of people need to stop allowing everyone to take control of their stuff, whether it's a contract or I think independent is the way. Therefore, you have say so. Nope, I don't want that person playing that role. I want
absolutely.
I totally agree. I agree with First. Like you said, like back in the day, it was just DC and was just Marvel, and then going towards the '90s and the early 2000s of comic books in that era, like when Image got born, the flood of the market of a bunch of independent publishers and stuff, which fantastic because you like the alternative. You don't like to just, I mean, the superhero thing is cool and stuff like that. but you always get your Spider-Man, like Roy was saying earlier. You know, you always get your Spider-Man, you always get your Batman, you always get your same heroes every single time. Like to grab something off the shelf that you're not, you know, familiar with, and then opening it up and like having that same first feeling of this is something new, something that grabs you, like something that you can relate to, and that's why it's like with Biopunks and the Legend of Althea and Outcast, like these are things that you made that like everybody can relate to, because not everybody, you know, has a 100% in their health wise, or you know they're going through struggles in everyday life, you know, stuff like that, and that's something that you touch on in your comics, you know, and that's why it can be more relatable than, you know, all these other superheroes that, you know, like Bruce Wayne, like nobody can relate to Bruce Wayne,
right?
You know, anybody got $1 billion and a mansion and stuff like that,
right?
You know what I mean? But you make characters that like that's like one of my friends, like that's somebody that I went to school with,
right?
You know, somebody that, you know, that we were on the playground together playing with, you know, had asthma or you know, has some type of disability, and then for them to have these superpowers that you give them, like that's fantastic. You know, it's inspiration. You know, the way you make those.
Yeah, and the best part about that is everyone needs a hero. So for those kids that are in a wheelchair, that does have asthma, that does deal with problems with their health, to see that person looks like me and they have this and they can do this, so I can do that. That helped. I love anything that encourage someone that's in that position to be able to do such things. Let them know that they are not limited. They're limitless. So that's what I love about your work. That's what it's showing. So
thank you.
A person with asthma, some little boy's gonna look at that and be like, I have asthma, but look what he's able to do.
Right.
You know, I could probably do that, and that may help them either overcome the asthma or just them believing in themselves again, because we need that right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially like first said, like the times that we're at right now, we need something that's just something to uplift, you know, the community, you know, and you know, just something that's relatable, you know.
Absolutely. Yep.
Not like it doesn't have to be blockbuster all the time with explosions and killings and stuff like that. You know, we want something that I know that person. You know, I can relate to that person, and that would be awesome if I had superpowers. And like first said, like it's limitless. It's nothing can hold you back, no matter what you have. You know, what disability you have, it shouldn't hold you back. It should just motivate you and move forward. So.
Yep.
I really appreciate that, Royce. You know, coming from the comic book community on this side, I want to say thank you for making something really inspirational that you're doing
right now.
It's
much
really
appreciated.
awesome.
No, absolutely no, and thank you for the support, because that's the only way it works. So I really appreciate you guys.
Oh yeah, not a problem. But we're here supposed to support each other. I mean, we got enough hate going on now. There's even hate within the comic book community with people getting jealous. Dude. So it's uncalled for. I'm like, it's just a book with paper. Calm down.
Exactly.
It's not that serious.
It's
not
so
life or
weird,
death.
man.
Yeah,
it is. They go at your throat if you got something better than they do. I'm like, like I tell Shane, I've known some people that actually go toe to toe with me, like getting grails. I'm like, dude, calm down. You're spending all your income just to get a butt. What?
Yep.
I'm gonna wait till that book go on sale.
Exactly.
Then I'm gonna get it.
Right.
And I'll have it.
Yeah, man.
I mean, come on. But yeah, so that's crazy.
The comic book community, it's one of those things, like we're the most passionate, and we're the greatest community.
Yes.
When we're on your side, we are the most passionate, supportive, but we're also I feel like we're also the most spoiled brats. Like when things don't go our way, when things aren't the way we want them to be, like we could just be so annoying and aggressive, you know, at the same time, where it's just like, it's just like you said, it's just uncalled for sometimes, where it's just like, all right, we know we feel a certain way about things, and just because one thing comes out and it's not what you wanted or whatever, what have you, like we don't need to blow up people's timelines and, you know, make them feel horrible about
and they will.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus, they are ruthless when it comes to. Oh, you could have wrote better. You could have. Let me see you go in a room and come out with a whole series.
Right.
And it's perfect and on top.
That's
Calm down.
Yep.
So,
calm down.
Royce, Who is your favorite comic book character? Marvel or DC, either or just independent in general.
Let's see. Spider-Man.
So do you like the regular Spider-Man, or do you like Miles Morales, or both?
No, I'll always be OG Spider-Man. He'll always be in my heart. I love Miles Morales. I thought that was like the greatest thing ever, because when he first came out, because like we were talking about earlier before we started recording, I hate race bending. I hate turning a historically white character black. I don't buy into the whole like, oh, well, it's not the race, it's the character that matters. I'm like, no. This character has been established. Their lifestyle, their personality has all been built off of this identity. So whether we like it or not, for me, Peter Parker is a white guy, and you can't just make Peter Parker black and now I just accept that, because his whole world now has to change. Everything has to change about him. His whole experience, where he lives, how he talks, all that stuff has to change. And
that's true.
And so by them bringing in Miles Morales, a completely different person, and black and Puerto Rican, and you now have that background, you're able to create such a unique, different storyline. But the fact that he now has the same powers as Spider-Man, he can now assume that role, but he's now Spider-Man. He's now a unique Afro-Latino Spider-Man that has his own world where people can fall in love with him, fall in love with that individual character. You know what I mean? So
go ahead.
And I was saying, I feel like that's why I fell in love with Miles Morales so much, was because if they just would have tried to make a black Peter Parker, I feel like it would have been horrible.
Yeah, I love. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's just like what me and Shane talk about all the time. During this time that we're in now, with a lot of the whole, with the George Floyd, the Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland, all that stuff, we need a hero right about now.
Yeah.
And just to see that and to see to see that comic book with Miles Morales, how it spiked up so quickly, and prices, and like everybody wanted it. I'm just like, it didn't matter, it was black, Hispanic, Caucasian, everybody wanted that comic book, and I'm just like, that just really gave encouragement to a lot of us.
Yeah,
I think all race, and that you never know what that could have done. That could have brought some people together, but just seeing stuff like that, and that's why I commend you, Royce. Just seeing the three of us like that doing this and have something in common, it means a lot. So
absolutely,
we all need that one hero. So that it just, with that being said, who is your hero?
Who's my hero?
Yeah,
like real or
real life.
In real life. I would say my hero. I have to say heroes. Both my parents, my mom and my dad. Like they, like everything they did, the hard work they put in, all the things they sacrificed. Like everything that makes me who I am, I ultimately got from them. And seeing who they were and just kind of just being themselves. I feel like that was more important than anything. Because for me, like I always tried to look for, because they always say find a mentor. But for me it was hard. Like I couldn't find anybody who wanted to mentor me, who wanted to kind of take me in that way. I've had a lot of people who helped me, gave me advice, but if we're talking like a very specific, like the role of a mentor, I wasn't really able to find that, or at least I thought I wasn't able to find that. But then I realized like my parents really were my mentors, and they were really the ones teaching me everything that I needed to know. I just had to stop looking, elsewhere, and realize they were really the ones all along. So I would have to say both my mom and dad, hands down.
And
don't feel bad, because
really great answer, dude. That was really good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the same question, Shane. What about you, man?
Man, see, getting deep over here.
I know, I know.
Sometimes you got
to. Yeah.
But damn. So like like Roy said, it always has to come back to you know, my mom and my dad as well, you know, and also my wife, you know, they
That's
gave
awesome.
me all, like I always said this, like every prayer that I go to, like if I'm setting a prayer for blessing the food or just praying with my family or something like that, I always say like my mom, my dad, my wife, the kids, they always gave me the tools I always needed to grow up and to be the man that I am today. And without them and without all the lessons that I've learned and without their guidance that, you know what I'm saying, I needed it. You know, I needed to make the mistakes I did, you know, growing up to become the man that I am with them as, you know, guiding me through all the trials and tribulations in life and stuff. So it just always it comes back to my mom and dad and my wife always, and you know, I'm really appreciative of everything that they installed into me, and I can only just, you know, just be grateful for everything, and blessed as well, especially like I said, the times that we're going through right now. We need we need that.
Absolutely.
You know, we can't forget our upbringing and everything. And the only thing I'm supposed to do now is install what I learned into my kids, and that's pretty much it, bro. So first, who is your hero now?
Yeah.
That's Royce.
Right.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming. My look, it's always everyone knows this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we lost him.
No.
Nope,
Okay.
I'm back.
Okay, got it.
You hear me?
Yeah.
There we go again. It's doing it again.
Right. I was like, that's a cliffhanger.
Right.
I know.
No.
You thought I was gone. No. Everyone knows. No, I'm right here. I ain't going nowhere until I say this. Everyone knows that my hero, I have two of them. It was my mom and my grandmother. A lot of people don't really notice my father decided not to be a part of my life. I do know who he is. I've actually tried to have a relationship with him. He didn't want it. And I wrote him a novel. I wanted to send him. It was my mom and my grandmother. They literally taught me a lot of stuff that I know. My grandmother taught me my hustle, which is why I have multiple jobs. Don't mind having multiple jobs. And she also, you know, taught me about, you know, they kept me in church, of course. And, you know, mom and grandma taught me how to cook. Mom taught me how to, you know, manage my money and stuff like that. Plus they teach me a lot about, you know, having patience and how everything happens for a reason. And just seeing my mom, you know, take jobs that she wasn't getting paid much because she had a child at home. She was working at a Clorox factory and just separating the bottles of bleach as she did, and all she had was a pack of, you know, the little pack of Farmer's cookies. They have like 6 of them in a pack with the peanut butter. That's all she had for lunch that day, and she was busy and everything. But the only thing that was stuck on her mind was, I have a child that need Pampers. I have a child that need formula.
Right.
Any woman or parent that's sacrificed like that is a hero.
Yep.
And you know, 100%. She knows that. That's why she's spoiled. Dude, that's why she's spoiled rotten today. My mom can get anything she wants out of me. I will max out my credit card for her. Nice. So that's why my mom and my grandma, unfortunately, my grandmother transitioned back in 2015, but she instilled a lot in me, and I still have my mom. It's just me and her now. So I just make sure she's taken care of, make sure she's good, and those.
Very good.
Nice.
Did we lose him again? He might come back.
I think so.
This might be a cliffhanger again.
Right, another cliffhanger.
You might come out of nowhere. Okay, we might have lost him for sure this time.
I think so. I think I can hear him coming back.
We gotta get Althea's powers and revive him real quick.
Right, I know. Gotta heal that internet.
Yeah. Dang. Okay. He was getting into some good stuff too, but
I know. And now he'll pop back in.
Yeah, that was real deep, man. Like, definitely. Like, he had to throw a deep question in there. He just had to.
Right.
I was like, yeah, man, we're getting deep down, deep diving and stuff like that. And he was like, "Who's your personal heroes?" I was like, "Damn." I was like,
right.
I don't mind answering it. Like, it's cool. It's just that, when we're like talking in the comic book and then you get your real heroes and I'm like, okay, I'm about to get emotional.
Right, I know.
So I'm just,
it's about to get deep. I know.
It's like, let me go ahead and switch the whole vibe on y'all real quick. I'm like, yeah, damn.
All right, I'm back, y'all. It came back again.
Okay,
there we go.
There we go. See, I told you. Like the Phoenix Rising.
Hey, I'm good at clear. I'm good at hey, I always come back. I always come back for more. Trust me.
Right.
I don't give up easy.
No, but I love that Royce, though.
Yeah. I was gonna say, first, dude, that was really deep, man. That was lovely right there, dude. The tribute to your heroes and stuff like that. That was dope. I really love that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But like I said, I already know the type of person you are. Talking with you and us being friends, so I know what kind of person you are. You're a fantastic person.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
I already knew that about
Same
you.
here.
Oh
here. You too, bro.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So Royce.
Yeah.
What is the next project for you, bro, that's coming up?
The next project? Well, right now, like I said, I'm getting everything together for Outcast, trying to put together outline for how I can turn this into a series. I have everything already outlined for Biopunks to be an animated series. Also working on Legend Althea where it could either be an animation or live action series as well. So those are kind of like the three main things that I'm working on, trying to transition into. Along with, I do also have like my set of features because I do eventually want to get into doing my first feature. So I have a couple things I've been working on. One feature based off of another short that I did a few years ago called The Girl with No Brain. And then another one, which I'm trying to push as my first one because I think it'd probably be the easiest. But pretty much it's about my experience, like my experience in my first 2.5 years on the comic convention scene, because I think that's such a unique world and a unique experience when you're the person behind the table. And I feel like that story's never really told. So I think it would be cool to kind of show that from an indie artist perspective, trying to sell their comics and no one buying them.
See, that's the thing. First, I was gonna tell them I'm in the process of making my first comic book, and that's something that I'm seeking out.
Yes.
And can't wait to look into as well, because first time comic book creators like me myself, like we don't know any guidance or anything. There's no how to books.
Yeah, exactly.
Like me, I'm the writer of my own comics and stuff like that, and I have an artist that's my friend, like you. Pretty much the similar story that you have, but like there's nothing like online or anything like should I self-publish or should I pursue this with other publishers or like what's the best route for me? You know what I'm saying? And it's like you said, Biopunks was your first baby.
Yeah,
my book is my first baby too. Even if it's like to me, like I like it. Other people might think it's trash, but that's something that's like sentimental to me.
Yeah.
And that would be really intriguing, dude, to see. So
no matter what people think, you owe it to yourself to still get the story out there.
Definitely. That was the main thing. Like regardless if everything is done and all that stuff, as long like at least you're the one that created it. So like nobody can take that away from you.
Absolutely.
This is your story. These are your characters. This is your universe that you created from your mind. and this is all you. Like, and if somebody has anything to say, like First said earlier, why don't you go write your own characters? You go write your own story. And then you can come back to me, and then you can comment. But other than that, you can't say nothing because it's done. You know, that's something that you did. That's an accomplishment, personal for the writers itself, like me, myself, and you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's something they can't take away. So that's dope, dude. I can't wait to see that, dude. You know, I can't wait to do that. That's a really good idea. You know.
I appreciate that. Yeah,
like
thank you.
That again. Yeah, dude, that's awesome, dude.
Thank you.
How hectic was the first 2 years of your comic book career?
Man, it was filled with ups and downs. Like, it's crazy because I officially launched Biopunks at the 2017 LA Comic-Con, and unexpectedly, I practically sold out that year, and everybody was loving it. They're like, "Oh, this is great! This is great!" I'm like, "Oh, snap! This is awesome!" Okay, people are actually feeling this. So I was getting excited, and I was like, "All right, this is it. This is my calling. This is what we're gonna do." And then after that, I did I did WonderCon. That's in Anaheim, out here in California, and that one I didn't sell out, but I still did really well. And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna be like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm just gonna come out with a banger right from the get go. This is great." Because in my research, everybody referenced that story, like, "Oh, well, these two guys just made these, made this comic about these teenage turtles and it blew up." So I'm like, I could have that same story. So I thought I was kind of going down that same path, and then kind of like the second half of that first year, even going into my second year, then that's when the drought hit. Then I started hitting other conventions where only a handful of people would buy my comics. And then, it would be rough to even sell one. And then I'm like, okay, well, wait, hold on. Yeah. What just happened? Hold on. I almost wish it would have been the opposite. I wish I would have started off not selling anything.
Right.
But since I was riding on such a high where I'm like, I'm untouchable. This is great. And then and then literally went from just nobody caring. And I'm like, well, was it a fluke? What's happening? And then it was just then I just was getting really messed up psychologically. It was getting really depressing. I literally would just go back. If I was out of town, I would go back to my hotel room, try not to cry myself to sleep. I felt like a fraud, a failure, all that stuff, man. Because one, it's a big investment to do these conventions, and a lot of people don't realize that. And I had to learn that the hard way because, for me, I wanted to go out with the bang. So I was getting banners, I was getting this, and this, and then next thing I'm like, crap. Well, I have to sell I now have to sell all these comics to even just break even, And then it's when I was selling them, it was cool. But then when I wasn't selling anything, now I'm seeing the amount that I spent starting to pile up, and I'm just like, crap, I already scheduled 4 other conventions. What am I about to do? And then a lot of them, it's if you don't go, you kind of just eat the cost. It was I forget which convention it was, but I hit up the manager of it, and I was like, look, I don't think I can come anymore. And it was very last minute, in their defense, but I was just like, I just don't think I can make it. And they just kind of laughed, and they were like, are you serious? You're going to cancel 4 or 5 days out? He's like, no, that's not how it works. And I'm just like, I'm sorry. I don't think I can make it. And he was just like, all right, well, you're not getting your money back, all this stuff. And just kind of was really kind of messed up towards me. And I was just like, yeah, fine. I was like, all right, whatever. I'll just have to eat this cost, whatever. But then I think they realized how they were talking. So then they called me back, and they're like, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I understand. It's tough being an indie creator. He's like, I advise you to still go, because you never know what can happen. You can make your money. This could be the big show. You never know which show is going to be the one. Yeah. You don't know who's going to show up. So just please think about it. And then once hearing that perspective, I was like, okay, all right. And that show in particular, it was cool. It wasn't great. It wasn't I sold some stuff, but still it was just kind of, ends of what I made didn't justify the means anymore for me. So then I was just really struggling with like, okay, should I just not do this anymore? Like I don't even know. And being an indie creator, the hardest thing is not just the conventions, but trying to convince people to buy your comic in between the conventions, you know, trying to hit people online like, hey, buy my comic online. That was the hardest part, because when the conventions are happening and I'm posting pictures, people are like, oh, cool, you're doing stuff. But when I don't have that to show, people are like, oh, well, I don't know if I want to buy your comic and ship it and pay for shipping. And so it's like, it's like nobody would buy my comic at all in between conventions. And then at conventions, that's where I would have to hit them. Like, I have to sell these here, because if I don't sell these here, I'm not going to sell them online. So it was just very stressful. Yeah. So it's just one of those things where like I wasn't prepared for that part of it, you know, and there's really nothing online that tells you that. They're just like, hey, if you're going to do conventions, just think about the cost. But there's so much more like psychologically that goes into it. And then, you know, you realize why people do it once and then just drop out. But the positive side of it is I made a lot of friends doing it, and like a lot of friends who are successful, a lot of friends who are kind of in the same boat as me. And, you know, we kind of started communicating, and now we have like our own little, you know, I have my own little convention, comic book convention homies that I always stay in contact with. And, you know, we always motivate each other to keep going. And we just kind of understand it's just this grind, you know, that you kind of just have to push through. If this is something you're passionate about. And that's why whenever someone comes to me, they're like, yeah, I'm thinking about making my own comic. And I'm like, well, if you're thinking about it, don't do it. Because you have to know this is what you want to do. You have to absolutely know, because this is not fun. Like I'm telling you right now, you know, the people always say like, man, if I could do it all over again, I'd still do it. Me, honestly, I'm like, if I knew everything that it would take, I probably wouldn't have done it, to be honest. But it's like, I was so knee deep into it where I'm like, well, if I back out now, I look like a punk. So I just have to keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great, man. That's a good story, dude. That was fantastic right there.
That is.
Thank you.
Really,
so that's kind of what I want to touch on if I'm able to do this feature, is just that aspect of it, because people who are thinking about doing it, they don't know, or, you know, people who just attend the convention, they don't understand what they're doing to somebody when they stop by their booth and they're like, oh, cool, I'll be back. And then they don't come back, you know, like that. Yeah. You say that to be nice.
Really
you say that to be nice, but it really messes you up, because you're like, okay, cool. Yeah, they're coming back. They like the idea. They're coming back. And then when they don't come back, you're just kind of like, whatever. But then you see them at a booth buying a Spider-Man, you know, variant cover. And you're like, oh, okay. So you did have money.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Mine was only $4.
There was not an ATM outside the door. Okay.
$300 for
exactly. I'm like, that variant cover was $150, bro. Come on.
Right.
Yes. So you didn't have to go to the ATM, so you lied to me.
Right, exactly. So I think
I'll be right back.
If people could become more aware, and even just from you know, like the melanin side of the, like, for people like us, you know, it's even more damaging when I have, you know, a black person come up to me. They're like, bro, you're killing it. Keep going, man. Keep going. I support you. Cool. You're going to buy a comic? Nah, man. But I believe in you. I'm like,
oh my God.
I'm telling you, my experience, black people have been just as bad, if sometimes not even worse, than support from people of other races. Like, it's ridiculous.
It's sad.
It's really sad sometimes, but yeah, that's why I kind of want to spread that awareness. And I know there's people out there who's been doing it way longer than me. 2.5 years is nothing compared to people who've been doing this 10 plus, you know, but I still think it's important, because that information is not out there. And I think if people know that going forward, they can better prepare for what the grind really is.
Definitely. Man, that's what's up, dude. That's what's up.
Yeah. Sorry, what was that? You cut it out again.
That's the first. Yeah, we lost him again.
He'll be back.
Yeah. But like I said, dude, that was really deep, man. Like, I really, you know, like I said, I'm in the process of making my first book, and I was really intrigued and with the first, like I said, I wanted to be a movie director, but then I was like, that's just too much. I was like, you know what I'm saying? And then life happened, had a kid, got married, you know how it goes. Life story and stuff. And then so I was like, comic books, I always loved comic books as well. Ever since I was started collecting heavily, when I was 16, really deep in there with the stories and stuff. And I was like, dang, dude, what? Because I was not good at art, dude. I was shit at art. I was just not good, but I always loved writing.
Yeah.
I was creating characters and creating universes, and and I was really big on. I'm a big horror buff, a big horror fan and stuff.
Dope.
So.
Dope.
A lot of my writings and my stories are horror based and stuff. So, and then I was like, this is when I linked up with my friend that I met because I worked at Home Depot, and he came down from Jersey, and he was actually developing video games. He wasn't a comic book artist. He made video games, and I was like, and he actually showed me demos and everything of the games he was doing. I was like, oh, that's dope, but it didn't, it fell through for him. So I was like, dude, what if I just used your artistic abilities to come and help me out with this comic? Like, yeah, hell yeah, dude. So we linked up. He liked horror as well, and it was a whole process of making it. But it was just a different vibe because I had the drive for making comic books, and he was the animator for video games, so it's totally different,
Right.
But at least we got this one book done, and me being, like I said, the new guy on the block, don't know anything about publishing or the physical copies or the digital copies or to self-publish, and we were taken to a publisher, and the next level that's I'm trying to decide as well, once it gets done. So. It's gonna be a ride, like you said, what you went through in your first 2 years. It's gonna be wild. I can't wait to do it. Me personally, I can't wait to do it. I know you have your stories with it, but I am intrigued. I can't wait to take that route. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And the thing is, it's a great route. It's a great way to get your comic and your ideas out there. Definitely do it, because I mean that's what I'm saying. In hindsight, now knowing it's even made me better as a person. I was super shy. I hated public speaking, but it made me better at it because you're just constantly
I'm doing it.
For 8 hours a day straight. You're just telling people your idea, so it makes you more comfortable. Gets out of your comfort zone. And my whole thing is just, if there were just something that could have told me more specifically, hey, this is what you're up for, I think it would have been an easier transition. I think I would have enjoyed the experience more so than be stressed out because I put X amount of money into this convention, or I only sold 2 or 3 books at this convention. Because perfect tip somebody gave me that completely changed my whole mindset. And they were like, oh, you didn't sell any books? All right, cool. For those, he's like, you should do this for every show, but those moments you don't sell books, that's cool. Who have you connected with, at this convention? And I was like,
can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
I'm back.
Cool. So I was just saying, a really good set of advice I got for how to approach conventions of obviously you want to sell your books, but if you don't sell books, all right, well, who have you connected with? You're in a room full of artists. You got nobody's number, nobody's card. This is the holy grail. And you're in a room where more or less almost everyone's on the same level as you. So more than not, these people are want to collab. They're desperate to collab. We want to help each other, which I say is completely different from the film world. Film world, people don't want you to succeed. Everyone's out for themselves, and they hope everything you do fails. But in this world, it's completely different. Everybody cheers for everyone. And then it got to a point where it's I could be at a convention, people I know, I'm like, thanks for checking out my book. They're like, oh, well, you know what? I'm not really into this. I'm more into romance, or like you said, I'm more into horror. Then I'm like, oh, okay. Well, my guy over here, or this amazing woman over here, she has this, he has that. Go check them out. you know, and it becomes like a collaborative thing. And once I started looking at it from that standpoint, it really, really helped me, because now I'm like, all right, I didn't sell my books, but I met this one person who actually, you know, has a foot into animation. I can contact them. Maybe we can get something going. This person's a dope artist. Since I don't draw myself, maybe we can collab on something in the future. And you just start building that world of people, and you don't know how it's going to benefit you, or, you know, in whatever way, but you're creating that contact list of people, you know, are actually out here hustling. Because you can meet people all the time. They're like, oh, I do this, I do that. But it's like, okay, well, are you serious about it? You know, are you actually trying to pursue this? Where in that world, you literally see how people are acting, and you're like, okay, well, that person's a jerk. I don't know if I'll work with them, you know? So that was the greatest set of advice I got. So now, more than even selling my books, every convention I try to meet who's next to me, like my booth neighbors, like, you know, the conventions, you know, I'm sitting next to two people on either side of me for 8 hours a day, and we may have talked once. Like that, you know, I was like, that's actually weird. Like, they're out here doing the exact same thing as I'm doing. Like, why are we not, you know, lifting each other up? So
connecting,
So what I started doing is, you know, at the end of every show, you know, I'll find people close to me, like, hey, let's do an art trade. You know, I'll give you comics for, you know, if you have comics, we'll comic swap. If you have artwork, I'll give you a comic, give me, you know, a poster. We get each other's information. And so that way, you know, it's just a constant appreciation for everybody's hustle.
Yeah, that's what's up, DC. That's what I'm saying about the comic community. Like you said, like, this community is fantastic, dude. Like, reaching out. Like, look, like right now, like me and First reaching out with you, bro.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
We're doing like this podcast, talking comics and stuff. Like, this is fantastic, dude. Like, only through comics, dude. I keep on saying that. Like, I said that in my other videos. Like, I have a friend all the way in the UK, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, United Kingdom. You know, and we talk comics, dude. I do podcasts with him as well, and I'm like, that's a 5-hour difference, and we end up still trying to find time and connect and talk about, you know, these stories that we like growing up and everything that intrigues us. So I'm like, only through comics that I can do that, you know. Like, it's fantastic. Like First is from Florida, you're from LA, and I'm over here in North Carolina, dude, and yet we come together still in unity.
Absolutely.
Unity.
That's the only way.
This brotherhood.
You and I see why. Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
That's cool, man. It's dope. It's really dope, dude. Cool. And that's, like I said, Royce is dropping bombs here, dude. Like, he's giving some really good advice about a lot of stuff, dude. Like, you know, him being actually in that indie comic book world and giving advice to all these independent creators that just starting off, like myself, and it's really informative and really educational on my behalf, and you know, trying to get my feet wet, you know, as you say, and you know, it's fantastic, dude. I really appreciate that, all the information that you're you know, you're giving us here. You know, it's good. It's great content. It's really fantastic content. I'm not gonna lie, dude.
Absolutely, really, my pleasure.
Really cool, dude. Heck yeah.
Very good content. But of course, Royce, we do appreciate you taking the time out with us and doing this interview, even though I cut out the majority of the time.
It's all good. It's all good.
Thank you.
Again, that's why we record it. There's so we can always go back.
Exactly. Go back and record, and go back and watch it myself and see what I missed. But otherwise, we still appreciate what you've taken the time out your business schedule to do this with us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I said, for me too, bro. I really appreciate you taking out your time as well, like First said, you know, and just talking comics, talking about biopunks. You know what I mean? You're a whole freaking the Royce Adkins universe, you know what I'm saying? Deep diving into it. We're going to come up with a name. Let the fans decide.
Let the fans decide what the universe is called.
The universe.
Because they end up naming it anyway. They end up naming it anyway.
This is true. Yep.
Yeah, so
that is true. They will name it.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you, dude. You know, like I said, just, you know, we really appreciate you, me and First, you know, and just taking out your time of your busy schedule. And it was awesome, dude. It was cool.
Absolutely, like I said, man. My
we
pleasure.
Got to do it again, dude.
Got to
do it again.
We will. We'll do it again.
Another podcast, bro.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Just let me know. I'm there.
All right, guys. Like I said, We hope you guys enjoy the content. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow my boy Royce over here on Instagram and my brother First. And everything's going to be in the link down there in the bio and stuff. And we'll catch you guys later. All right?
Peace out.
All right. Peace.
I'm going to stop.